And I guess I'm going to have to say it like this, Peter. The more fiscal discipline you have that you can live within your means while you're working, the better your retirement is going to be.
And welcome into the program. This is your game plan for retirement with Northwestern Ohio's resource for a common sense approach to planning for your money, your investments, your financial and retirement future. We always turn to Chris McIntire, as so many proactive planners, savers, and investors across Northwestern Ohio have done, and always new information for those of you who are paying attention and staying tuned to the financial world. And ladies and gentlemen, as we always emphasize on the program, if you don't have your plan together for retirement that you feel confident in quite yet, Chris McIntire here to guide you along the way and make sure that you are planning for the right types of issues and making sure that you are being proactive in those plans. Chris, today we're going to talk about 6 retirement myths, things that people have widely believed or planned upon that we may need to rethink or reconsider.
You mean if it just because it was on the internet, it might not be true, Peter?
Yeah, I'm a French model. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Chris, a lot of people do those searches out there. They research a topic, but that information may not be applicable to their specific situation, or it may be based upon a widely held belief that is less than reliable.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can talk to 10 different people and get 10 different opinions. And I'm not a big social media person myself. We often say that, look, Google is the bathroom wall of the internet. And there's a reason that they're going after some of these social media companies for misinformation, disinformation, that type of thing. So let's try to kind of cut through all of that stuff here today, Peter, and just lay out some facts, let people make the decisions that are in their best interest.
Yeah, well, myths about retirement are everywhere, but bottom line, ladies and gentlemen, your best investment is to get that plan put together. As we, again, always emphasize here on the program, the plan is the foundation for lifestyle and financial confidence and peace of mind. And Chris McIntire does make the offer available to you, an excellent, valuable opportunity to get your plan put together or to review and evaluate your current holdings and investments and retirement accounts and make sure that you have that cohesive plan for lasting financial confidence. If you'd like to take advantage of that opportunity, pick up the phone and give a call, 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. Now, Chris, we have a foundation for retirement, but it does not provide everything that most people need. And of course, I'm talking about Social Security. That is one of those entitlement programs that is such a large component of our retirement, but there is a maybe myth or misconception that I will live off of my Social Security income alone. We need to rethink that and make sure that we are doing as much as we can to supplement that Social Security to have a confident and fruitful lifestyle in retirement.
Yeah, you're right, Peter. There's it's an alarming statistic in the United States here, one of the world's richest countries, of how many people don't have any other savings than Social Security. And, the people listening to the show today probably aren't necessarily that demographic, and here in Northwest Ohio, right? We're not, some of the poorer areas of the country, obviously here, kind of middle America, and, most people are going to use Social Security as part of their base foundation, and it may make up 30 to 40 to 60% of their retirement income. So they still need 50 to 70% more money coming in from personal savings or pension plans to help just create that basic financial, let's call it, security blanket.
Yeah. And Social Security was never intended to replace lifestyle. It is an anti-poverty measure, right, Chris? That it was only intended to keep the recipient just above the poverty level if they have Social Security alone, which, just as you mentioned, not the lifestyle that the majority of listeners to this program would envision for retirement.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct there, Peter. And the way they calculate your Social Security benefit is, it is statistically or designed to replace more more income for lower wage earners than upper wage earners. So, there's three steps to your Social Security benefit calculation, or three tiers, if you will. One is you get 90% of the first it's a little over, I think, $1,100 that you've averaged in your lifetime. So, you get 90% of that first tier, 32% of the second, and then 15% of the third, because it is designed to be front end loaded for lower wage earners. You're right.
Well, the problem is that there's a huge gap between what future retirees think they will receive and what they actually are going to get. Right now, retirees, Chris, receive an average monthly income of $1,657 from Social Security. That's about $19,900 per year. That's barely enough to keep the lights on and food on the table.
Yeah, and if that's your only income, you're probably on the Medicaid system for, medical help and whatnot, and, maybe getting some assistance with groceries and everything. So, it is not much money in the United States, and especially after our, run of inflationary pressures. And, three of us went out to eat lunch the other day, Peter, and we had, a lunch combo discount meal and three iced teas, and with tip, it was $88. And I mean, we had small lunches. So, I can't imagine trying to live off of $20,000 a year in retirement. I would assume, a lot of those folks, you might be renting versus owning a house as well, too.
They used to talk about sticker shock when you went to buy a new vehicle. Chris, now it's sticker shock every time we go out to eat. And the a recent poll found that nearly 1 out of 5, 17% of Americans don't expect to have any other source of retirement income beyond Social Security. Yikes, that is scary. The news gets worse, right, Chris? Because the Social Security Board of Trustees has stated that they expect Social Security benefits to be cut by more than 20% by the year 2033, unless Congress can take some action here. Bottom line, retirement is your job, not the government's. And we used to have those pensions, right, Chris? And then that has transitioned more to the 401k. And even when pensions were around, not everyone had a pension. That was not every American was the beneficiary and recipient of pension income. But when it shifted to 401ks, Chris, even fewer of those actually started saving and investing. So those who have done a good job have by and large done a great job. But I think there's a large portion of the country that has unfortunately been left behind on this one. Bottom line, Chris, we need to make the most out of our Social Security benefits wherever we fall on that spectrum. And so you spend a lot of time helping retirees to optimize their Social Security so that, number one, myth that they will live off that exclusively, we get the most from it, but also plan that that is not our only sole source of income.
One of the biggest questions I hope people answer, Peter, is do I take it at 62 or do I take it at 65? So, and an example here is, I'm retiring at age 62. Do I start my Social Security benefit, or do I wait until 65 when I have to sign up for Medicare? Because, if you were going to get $2,000 a month at 62, when you get to 65, right, they're going to pull out just about $200. I think it's almost $175 right now for Medicare. So you're going to take a pay cut, and you got to be conditioned for that, knowing that, oh yeah, I got to sign up for Medicare. They're going to take some more additional funds out of my Social Security benefit. And, a lot of times for us is, let's say it's a married couple and one of them has retired early and they want to take Social Security at 62. The other one's going to work until 65 because that provides health care, and then that one will file for Social Security benefits if they're, assuming they both work under the Social Security system. That's very common. Somebody goes early, somebody goes late.
And timing, knowing all the nuances, the different claiming strategies, so important, because a well thought through decision on when to claim and collect Social Security versus a poorly timed decision, ladies and gentlemen, that can be several hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of your retirement. So let's make sure to get that education ahead of time. It is an area where Chris McIntire spends a lot of time with his clients on that important decision alone. You don't want to fall for myth number one on our list that I'll live off Social Security income, but you do want to make the most of it. So give Chris McIntire a call, 800 868 1194, 800 868 1194. Chris, myth number two, speaking of those pensions transitioning to those 401ks, there's a widely held myth that if we just contribute enough to capture the match, that I'll have enough to retire. We really need to be striving well above and beyond what the company is offering to match.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just an additional incentive. And for somebody that doesn't have a 401k, boy, you certainly want to get that free money for sure. But if they're only matching 3% of what you're putting into it, but they could, and some companies may match up to 6. So, there's different incentives that these companies provide for people, but many of you are going to need to add additional dollars just to support your lifestyle as you get through retirement. And, if we go back 15 years, 20 years ago, somebody retired with $1 million, they were considered rich. Okay? Yep. Today, $1 million is like, man, I don't know if I've got enough. That's the conversations we have. It's amazing the shift here. Because obviously 20 years ago, if you look at $1 million and now you start adding inflation to it, it's probably would buy $500,000 of what $1 million did, 10, 20 years ago, Peter.
Chris, is there a number that we should be shooting for? I mean, we've all heard the saying, pay yourself first, right? And this is in respect to making those retirement contributions, making sure that we are investing for a more stable and secure financial future. But I've heard 10%, I've heard 15%, I've heard plenty falling for myth number two. I'm just capturing the match. Is there a number in your mind that is kind of the benchmark for we are doing what we should to pay ourselves first so that one day we can retire with confidence?
And I guess I'm going to have to say it like this, Peter, the more fiscal discipline you have that you can live within your means while you're working, the better your retirement is going to be, right? So you're forcing yourselves to save, and it almost might seem painful that you're going to do without certain things so that you can retire earlier, right? We all have it, it's like, well, Joe next door retired at age 60. How did he do it? I made more money than he did. Well, maybe you had 3 more kids. You actually paid for their colleges. Joe did not. Joe may have inherited money that you don't know about. So a lot of different things out there when we're comparing yourself to the Joneses. That was the word I was looking for.
Yep.
But for those who have that can suffer the pain of discipline, okay, you're going to avoid the pain of disappointment down the road. And that's a shout out to my buddy Matt Miller there. That's his quote. Suffer the pain of discipline versus the pain of disappointment.
Well, Chris, I'm going to do a myth to be here because I know that there's a lot of misconception about this. If we are doing that 401k, more often these days, you've got a choice between Roth or traditional. And this is going to dovetail into a future myth that we're going to talk about with taxes and in retirement. But Chris, I think a lot of people nowadays are understanding the benefit of the Roth and the value that that may have in prepaying taxes, right? The Roth is you pay the taxes up front. But I think there is still a common misconception that the company will not match me if I choose to pay those taxes and contribute to the Roth side of my 401k. If the company offers a match, they've got a match whether you choose to pay your taxes ahead of time or defer and delay, correct?
That is correct. And they can actually now add the match to your Roth 401k under the Secure Act 2.0, where previously, if you were going to put money into the Roth 401k, the company match had to go into the traditional. And, you might, there's so many individual plans out there, you might want to double check with HR to see if they've made modifications and whatnot. But, when you talk about taxes, the less you pay, the better off you're going to be down the road. So if somebody right now has a salary of, say, between a husband and wife, $100 to $150,000, when they retire, pretty good chance they're not going to have that amount of money coming in, right? That's just the premise of it. We make more money working than we do in retirement because we've spent down our expenses and whatnot. So for some folks, we can do those Roth conversions into retirement versus while they're working, because I think if we ask everybody listening to the show today, how many of you think your income taxes will go up in retirement? Everybody puts their hands up typically,
Right.
Because we understand the deficit and government spending and so on and so forth, no matter what they say during this election cycle here. At some point we'll have to pay that down, and the government raises revenue by taxation or by, taking over an industry, for example, like healthcare, and so there are a number of different factors to consider. Do you do the traditional 401k and then do Roth conversions in retirement? Or is your income at such a point now where it's okay to do the Roth 401k and pay the taxes now?
Another area, Chris, we talked about how you spend a lot of time with your clients helping them maximize and optimize that Social Security income, but also minimize and be efficient with taxes. That's an ongoing process with your clients that you spend a lot of time on understanding when and where and how to take advantage of the Roth versus the traditional, or move money between them, or where to make those contributions, right?
Yeah, and to answer this question generally, most people listening to the show today between age 59 and a half and 73 is when they probably have the most optimal times to do tax planning. At age 73, those required minimum distributions kick in, and that can limit some of your tax planning flexibility because you've got more income coming in out of those IRAs. At age 59 and a half, you have access to your retirement money in your 401ks if you want to start shifting that around and do an in-service rollover, a tax-free roll, not tax-free, but a non-taxable rollover into an IRA account at age 59 and a half. Now, if you had worked at a place previously and you have an old 401k sitting out there, you can obviously move that into an IRA ahead of 59 and a half, of course. So, most folks are clueless on how all of these issues work for them. And so right now, Peter, we are coming into the Roth conversion season right now. We're coming up on the end of the year. Most people have a pretty good idea how much more income they're going to have between now and December 31st. So, they have time to do some of those Roth conversions right now, or even Roth contributions, we could say. And remember this, not everybody can contribute to a Roth IRA based on your income, but anyone can convert to a Roth IRA regardless of income.
We can always get money in there, and we've got a spreadsheet here, Chris, again previewing another later myth, talking about when and where and how those Roth contributions or conversions do make sense. And it's a great resource that if anybody's considering tax management for retirement, this one-page kind of spreadsheet flow chart, if you will, is very beneficial. All right, so we'll get into that in a second. I do want to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about the 6 myths of retirement with Chris McIntire. And if you've got questions, concerns, if you want to double check and review your plan for retirement, pick up the phone, give a call. That is an offer, an opportunity that Chris McIntire makes available to you, no cost, no obligation, to review your current plan or help you construct and put together a current plan and document and a plan for your financial future. Just call 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. Myth number 3, Chris, kind of a funny one to me, because this is not my definition of retirement, and maybe retirement's changing to rewirement for many folks. But the myth number 3, I will work through retirement. There comes a time where that's just not possible.
Yeah, because of health considerations and whatnot. And, maybe your spouse says you're done working. And, in some cases, maybe the spouse says you need to go back to work too.
Chris,
That's
you're
a fair.
chuckling. I feel like that's a conversation you've had in your household.
Yeah, yeah, we'll see. We'll see here. And, uh, and I'll use my father, for example. He retired and then he went back to work for some of his former clients that needed somebody to help out. And it kept his brain sharp and whatnot. And he really enjoyed it. Uh, and, some of you work at a golf course because you get to play free golf. My dad, did that one as well. And
Ah.
sometimes it's not about the need for money, but also the need to fill the time if you don't have hobbies and things like that. But for some people, obviously, they retire at 62, they pull their Social Security, and then they want to work part-time so that they don't get penalized for that Social Security, but maybe it helps them pay for health insurance or something like that. They make, a couple $1,000s a month working part-time. They can pay for their health insurance and add a little bit more income, for their retirement before they start hitting the 401k heavy. Good example there, Peter.
And of course, Chris, I joke, radio show listeners can't see it, but not nearly enough gray hair, ladies and gentlemen, in Chris McIntire's head to be thinking about retirement quite yet. He's here and going to help you retire, and that's what McIntire Retirement Services is aimed for, to help you have that confident retirement future, plan out all the aspects, make sure that you're not falling for any of the myths. And Chris, you talked about health insurance cost. Number 4 here on the list is Medicare will cover my medical expenses. This is a big myth. Medicare is not free, at least not for any kind of level of comprehensive health insurance protection.
Yeah, let's walk through that. So right now, if you're, on Medicare, they take up basically $175 a month out of your Social Security benefit. Okay. So if you're a married couple, that's $350 that you're paying for Medicare. Okay. If you have a supplement insurance plan, like millions of Americans do, to help cover what the 80% or the 20% that Medicare Part B doesn't cover, that might cost you $150 a month. Okay. So if you're a married couple, that could be $300 a month. So all of a sudden now we're up to 650 between Part A and Part B. Okay. And then if you have to take some prescriptions, you might have the prescription drug benefit. And maybe that costs you $150 a month. So, we're looking, someplace anywhere from, say, let's say $175 to $400 a month for retirees who may not have paid very much money at all for their health insurance while they were working. So in some cases, they're paying more in retirement for health insurance, and I will, Peter, as you know, you're self-employed also, but Robin and I, we pay $2,200 a month for health insurance, and Peter's a little bit younger, and but he's got wife and a child, and I don't know what he does for his employees
Close.
and so
We're
on.
right there, neck and
Yeah,
neck. Yeah, yeah. It's very expensive, and
yeah,
particularly if you're planning on retiring early, Chris, that's a specific conversation that you need to have, right? That pre-65 retirement target means that you've got to cover those expenses in that donut hole, and then don't forget ongoing that you'll have deductibles and co-pays, and long-term care is not covered by Medicare. You've got to have some money set aside to cover those healthcare costs, ladies and gentlemen. So that's myth number 4. Myth number 5, Chris, it's too late for me to save for retirement. Look, we all wish we had done more and started sooner, but you'll never be younger than you are today. So why not get started now? Any situation can be improved, even one that is in relatively good shape, right, Chris?
yeah, you're absolutely right, Peter. Walking through this retirement minefield that Peter and I are talking about here today, stepping on some of these issues can cost you thousands of dollars that you may be able to avoid, from the timing of Social Security to the taxation issues, to the Medicare issues, to the long-term care issues, right? There are a lot of things that come up in retirement that you really need to prepare for, that I think some people may be going into it fairly oblivious and not sure how all these systems work, and thinking that Medicare is going to cover my time in a nursing home. That is not what Medicare does. So, we all often say on the show here, Peter, you and I going back how many years, is look, there's two things that can really derail your retirement plan. Something bad happening in the stock market at the wrong time, and then obviously, a long-term care issue going into a nursing home and, putting out $8,000 to $10,000 a month. Those are two things that can derail your retirement. And also there are many ways to help mitigate that risk.
Yeah, but you got to be proactive and start somewhere. You've got to have that foundation in place, but you've got to continue to review and update, because over time grounds shift, cracks form. There may be something that we were not aware of. You've got to plan proactively, ladies and gentlemen. So never too late to start, never too often to review that financial plan. Sit down and look at the numbers. Make sure you uncover things that maybe you are not aware of. And Chris, that dovetails into myth number 6. I can do it on my own. Personal experience here. I was speaking at a senior center recently about some of these same issues. I had a number of people come up to me afterwards saying, yeah, I've got a person, I've got a guy, I've got a girl, but I have never talked about X, Y, or Z that you discussed. And, Chris, it's those things that we don't know, or those things that we have not covered, that can derail the retirement. And I think that is an important aspect, not just for those that you can invest on your own these days. You can open your own accounts or have a 401k at work, but it still does not negate the need for a qualified relationship with a planner, an experienced qualified professional, to help you spot and identify those hurdles, those obstacles, those pitfalls into the future that you may not know about.
Yeah, without question, and, we're pretty seasoned after all, a few decades into this here, Peter, and just enough gray hair to go through a few things. And you're getting gray too, so don't,
I said you didn't have much gray hair. I try to cut mine short so you can't see as much of it. But yeah, a lot of gray hair on that cape they put around you, Chris.
Yeah, there you go. But I think part of our job here is, not just the investment management, it's the emotional management and whatnot that, a lot of people will make knee-jerk reactions, bad day in the stock market, should we get out, that type of thing. And, trying to lay out the reasoning on long-term financial well-being and, mitigating different risks. And you notice I don't always say eliminating, we say mitigating risks. Some of them are hard to get rid of, obviously, I mean, and things can happen in health, it just, and it humbles me to the heart, and I say this personally, with, being a married spouse with somebody who's had some health issues, and that we watch that every, all the time. Life is what happens to plans, and, you have to be prepared for some of these things, and having somebody who's walked down that path before, numerous times with other people can certainly help give you some guidance and, maybe ease the anxiety. We just had a client who just getting ready to retire here at the end of the month, and they came in, we were getting ready to do some paperwork on rollovers, and I said, let's talk about the anxiety you're having right now. You're getting ready to do something you've never done before, and his wife's still going to work. And, they were very refreshed that we didn't just talk about money. We talked about the emotions of, look, I'm getting ready to do something I've never done before. And all of a sudden, look, sometimes men lose their status, right? Look, I was a supervisor. I ran a department of 18 people. Now I don't do anything, right? That's a gut check. You got to find yourself again a lot of times.
Well, I know, Chris, that defining what retirement is going to look like, mental, emotional, psychological, and yes, math, the investment side of it. And there are a lot of myths and misconceptions that unfortunately people fall into that can derail both sides of that equation. And we want to try to address those well ahead of time and make sure that we've got a plan mapped out, that we can fill our time and enjoy that time by having the assets to support us. And Chris, the plan, the best investment to make sure that both sides of that are addressed and measured and met. And we always appreciate your time in providing the guidance. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to reiterate and repeat here that Chris McIntire, a resource to so many, having an enjoyable, confident retirement across Northwestern Ohio, but so many more need that help. And McIntire Retirement Services is there for you. So pick up the phone, be in touch, give them a call, get that plan put together, or just a conversation to review and evaluate the current setup and the path that you have forward. Chris, happy to talk with you, happy to help in answering any questions that you have or constructing that plan. 800-868-1194 is the number to call. 800-868-1194. 800-868-1194. Chris, I appreciate the time today reviewing these 6 critical myths of retirement and making sure that people are aware. Maybe these aren't as reliable as we would fool ourselves to believe.
Yep, you're absolutely right. And it's good to be with everybody today. Be safe out there. Thanks for listening to the show today.
Tune into Chris McIntire's full radio program and visit McIntireRetirementServices.com for many additional valuable resources, including other great episodes of Game Plan for Retirement with Chris McIntire. Be sure to subscribe.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor. Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.
Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services. Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.